for the opportunity we have to be together like this for our annual general meeting. We just pray your guidance and your direction upon us as we vote and as we meditate and we think of your work here and the decisions that you call us to make today. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. I think all of you who are here with members have received the file with the things that we'll be looking through today. And the first thing that we will be looking at is what we have done and what we will do. In your packages, you have information right in the back. You have some sheets which are the listing of what happened in 2015 and what is planned for 2016. So, if any of you have difficulty hearing, you can probably come closer. So I'd ask Steve to come and use his voice. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. For those that are here, thank you for being here. Now we're going to start off. If you look at, like as Pastor Terry said, in your binders, you'll see the first one that says Britannia Baptist Church income statement. It says it right on the top. This would be the income statement starting January 1st of 2015. And I've got the records all the way up until last night. So everything is accurate to the penny. Once again, that would be the first sheet that says income statement 01/01/2015 to 18/12/2015. Does everybody have that? Now I'll give you a minute to look through everything. And basically speaking, this for members, or if you have a question about this, please ask. Now the income statement is based upon the whole year. It's not what we actually have in the accounts, it's what we received and what we paid out for the entire period. Does anybody have any questions about this? I have two more. Amuk and Ali. Yeah. I made 29 in November. The reason why I only made 29 is because we officially have 28 members, 2 of which are out of town, so that left 26 members. Now, as I was just explaining, within your packages is the income statement, the first one we're looking at. This is very important that we look at one at a time. Any questions you have, ask. If there's no questions whatsoever, then I'll put it up on the floor for a vote to accept the income statement. So once again, this describes all of the money that we've received down to the last penny for the whole year and the money that we have spent. Now I do have to mention one that's very important on this. On page 1, at the bottom, you'll see an account in capital letters called Mission to Mums Closing. This is an important one that we bring up. Does everybody see that on the sheets?
Yeah.
On the very bottom it says $83,199.71. The reason why this is on our books, if some of you that were with us from the start, we had actually received a large donation from of furniture to give away to different homes. There was a lot of stuff that happened that was very confusing, but we did everything properly. Pastor Terry had mentioned this before. We had actually put in the police report. We had to wait 5 years before taking this off of our books. So that closing account officially closes up from the official police report till now, 5 years. That's why you see such a big expense. It doesn't mean we spent $83,000, no we didn't. It's just to take the physical inventory off of our books, so for next year it'll be zeroed out.
Basically, it'll be a better glimpse of what we actually have in assets next year than for the last 5.
Exactly.
Because these are assets we haven't had for 5 years.
We haven't had these assets for 5 years, that's right. And there was a bit of confusion because the amount that they stated on the assets from the store was not what it's actually worth. But that all got sorted out. Another important part on page number 2, the income statement. If you look on the very bottom, it says our net income. What a net income means is how much we receive and how much we spend. What is left over is either a net income or a net loss. This shows a net loss of $72,000. This is incorrect. The reason being, of course, is because of the inventory from the furniture. If you've got a pen and you'd like to mark this down, our actual net income, which means after we have received our money and paid all the bills and anything that is normal to the operation of Britannia Baptist Church, we actually retained an income as of yesterday of $10,737.39. It's always wonderful to see a net income. But it's nice to see also that we don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars in there, which means it's all being given back. So as is, does anybody have any questions at all on this income statement? Nobody? Okay. So I'd like to put a motion on the floor, or actually some, that we pass the income statement for 2015 from January 1st to December the 18th, 2015. Do I have anybody?
You need a member to...
Yes, I need a member to move it.
Another member to second.
Yes. So does anybody move the motion to accept the income statement? A member only. Oh, okay, move. And can I have a seconder as a member only, please? Did you say? Do we have someone taking the minutes? What? Oh, it's Bill, okay. So considering you've actually raised your hand, can you say your name verbally so it picks up on the camera, please?
I moved instead.
Okay, thank you. The next one is the balance sheet. Oh, sorry.
We had a motion that was moved and seconded.
Oh, so, okay, thank you. All those in favor of accepting members only, please, raise your hand. 8. Anybody against? Abstain? Okay, unanimous, thank you. Next one is the balance sheet. What a balance sheet is, it actually shows what is going on with Britannia Baptist Church as of right now. Does everybody see that? It's the balance sheet as at 18/12/2015. All as that means is as of that date.
Where's the balance sheet?
The balance sheet will be the second one in the package. It's right behind the income statement. It's a 2-page sheet.
We'll flip this.
I'll give everybody a minute to find it.
Are you going to be using anything on the bulletin board up on the screen or not?
No, I'm not using that at all.
Okay, I have it up. I opened that wide, that's why I thought.
Did you find it, Glenn?
Trying to figure, don't say bounce.
One is income, the next one is
Oh,
balance.
there it is. Okay.
Okay, you have it paid. Now, I have to explain first of all, if you see the top ones are the current assets, that just means what is in our bank. We have a master bank account. We only have one bank account for Britannia Baptist. But we deal with what's known as a cash basis accounting, which means it is recognized as soon as it is recognized within the bank. So, I've created a number of what's called secondary accounts in accounting only, so that you know money is being held for specific purposes within the church. One of the things that might be interesting to you, if you look on the third line, it says benevolent, designated, negative 450.70. Now, this does not mean that we're holding a negative balance in the bank. It's an account that we kept track of. We received a donation for turkeys. Pastor Terry received it in the amount of $500. Now, the donation is going to be included with today's offering and deposited Monday. The reason why it says negative because I had to record it as an expense. So the actual picture will be, once it's actually deposited, it'll go back to a positive plus 50.
But the expense should be $500.
Yeah, but there was only $50 in there. There was an actual balance that we used for bus tickets. It was a special amount that we had aside just in case. So that's the reason why you'll only see a negative there. Everything else is actually very accurate. The actual amount that you see, $27,849.90, is exactly what is currently in our Britannia account. Each one of them on the left-hand side is a breakdown of what we use this money for. Does anybody else have any questions on the first page? Second page, once again, you'll see a negative earnings. Okay, if you look at the top of page number 2, you'll see GST paid on purchases. And it shows a negative amount, $797.16. All that means is that it's against our liabilities. It means that that's money that I'm going to be claiming. We claim it once a year. So in January we'll be claiming the GST return. We get roughly about 72% back from the government. That's the only reason why it shows a negative. That is money that's actually will be coming back to us as a GST, HST tax return. Once again on the bottom, under the current earnings, I would explain under the income statement, the negative 72,000 is actually plus 10,737. But this is an actual picture of what's going on right now with us. You have a question?
I'm fairly confused. I'm not used to having balance sheets that show negative.
Zero.
That's zero. If it's zero, don't show it.
Well, in these particular ones, yeah, it always shows it as a part of the balance. I can't go in if people are confused.
Bank loans?
What's that? Oh yeah, I know. I can remit it from the statement. It's just all I have to do is go into the computer system, remit it as a.
We've ever had a bank loan?
We've never had a bank loan.
Then it shouldn't be in here.
Okay. Good suggestion. See, you're the first person that's ever said that to us in 6 years.
So it's just simpler if you only have in.
Yeah.
It's to do with our church, not all the other things of one letter.
I don't think we'll ever get a bank loan unless it comes to the future and we buy the school when it's empty. In the name of God, right? Then we'll need that. So I'm going to mark down a note to omit anything that's zero from the financial statements.
It's hard to figure out what is. And so far, it's
All
not.
these zeros.
Are there any other questions on this? Thank you, Phyllis. Okay, there are no other questions. I have a motion on the floor that we accept the balance sheet as at 18th of December 2015. Anybody like to carry the motion? Member only? David?
Yes, I'll,
Okay, David carries the motion. We need a seconder, please. Nobody wants a second? Mary, oh, Gloria? Gloria seconds. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Only one? Okay, two.
Do we have a chance to ask questions after the motion?
Oh.
I thought
in that
we
case,
had questions.
If you still have a question on this, that's why I asked if anybody had a question.
Because to me, the year is 12 months. We're only doing an income statement for 11 and a half months.
Yes.
When, if ever, do we get the other half month?
I can actually modify it for...
Because it was last year, would be the full year, I assume, or the year before, the year that's audited. But this, we're only getting 11 and a half months.
The
To
reason
me,
why...
I'm accustomed to seeing a 12-month period.
Yes.
Same day it starts of the year, ends the same day of the next year.
Okay.
To me, it's confusing that you wonder, what about the other half month?
The reason why is our fiscal period actually runs from January 1st to December 31st.
Yes.
Because we're holding the AGM today,
Should we
I
not be
would not
holding
be
it?
able to, I would not be able to give financial statements otherwise.
Should we not be holding it after the end of the year? If we're having a financial statement for the year, then we should wait and have a financial statement for the year. Because this means there's 2 weeks that is not covered by any financial statement or any meeting.
Jerry has a comment.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I would characterize this as an interim report up until today.
Yes.
And the formal report to be produced once we have all the information at sometime in January. Just an interim report for information purposes.
Yeah. We're only missing 12 days or 13 days. And as Jerry said, and I was about to say, thank you, Jerry, that coming January, it'll be a complete picture which will be actually given and mailed out to every member.
That means we have an extra, it's going to be mailed out, so we don't have a meeting for the full year.
No, just as is.
To me,
Because usually the financial, these are always brought up at an AGM.
of all the organizations I've dealt with, it's always, you have the meeting covering the full year, not an interim meeting.
it should be done, and I agree with my
But if you
comment.
remember, when we held the board meeting, we actually agreed upon December 20th for the AGM.
I
And
think
at
it-
that meeting, I did state that it would not be a complete set of financial statements. Sorry, David?
I think it should be changed from now on, that it should be done in either middle of September, middle of January or February, so that way it can be, as my father's asking, a complete, the statement can be complete. This
I
can be
understand
complete. There's no add-ons, no things that'll be, little admissions that can be different than this. That when this is printed on black and white, it is black and white. It cannot be changed.
That's it. Then we can, as Jerry said as well, we can just classify this as an interim report. But at an AGM, we must give financial reports.
But I think,
And as you know, this meeting was actually held much later than regular. But you were in attendance at the board meeting as well. It was decided, we should have actually decided having the meeting in January instead. But because our AGM went longer than 12-month period, we can go into a maximum of 16 months after the previous AGM. We cannot go longer than 16 months. But I can remit another report complete in January.
And also one thing, because of, I think we're pushing a little bit early because of your health and with the surgery that's been coming. So that's why this has been
Well,
maybe
yeah,
pre-approved a little bit early, or I don't know.
If I can make a point. This year is unique because this year we've actually had 2 AGMs. Because we had an AGM in February 1st, when we did do the full budget for the previous year, but because of health concerns, we're having, this is sort of like an AGM that we would have normally had in February because of health concerns, we're having it earlier this year. So this year is unique because normally a church has 1 AGM, but it's working out that we've actually had 2 AGMs in the same year. I hope that, so normally we would have had an AGM in February because it would be a year this February from the last one we had. But because of health concerns, we're having this one now to get this information out to you.
So it'll be 2 this year and none next year.
Oh, no. We will have an AGM next year. But we're getting this cleared right now because of the health concerns
Because I don't know how long I'm going to be off on surgery. I don't know when my exact surgery will be, but the neurologist said it should be soon. But thank you for that point, Ben. But yeah, there will be a complete report resubmitted as well, with the additional 13 days. So what will be worded then? Accepting the interim balance sheet as of the 18th of December. Would you like to do the same motion, David?
Yeah.
Thank you. Second? Gloria. All those in favour of accepting this partial interim report, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. Oh, 4, 5. Okay. Those against? Abstain? Carried. Thank you. The next one will be the it's the same thing. It'll be the 2015 budget.
Chair come first.
Sorry?
All the reports chair come first.
Okay. Does anybody want me to go over the 2015 budget at all? Once again, it'll be up until the 18th of December. But it basically gives just a brief outline. You'll see it, the 2015 budget, it looks like this. Yes, with the yellow headers. And once again, I updated this as of last night, when I made sure that anything that's gone through the bank and any expenses and revenue we had is completely up to date. So I stayed up till rather late to get this done, just to make sure we had this for today. Now the left column says 2015 actual, as I say, this is the actual, what we have in each account. The right hand column is the actual budget that was approved back in February for the 2015 period. And I'm pleased to say as well, in reference to revenue, we had a 28.86% increase in revenue from 2014. In reference to the budget, of course, we still have 2 more offerings. Actually, we have 2 or 3 more offerings. No, we have today's offering. We have Christmas Eve, and we also have December 27th. So we have 3 more offerings that will go towards this budget than the actuals, which will also, as being an interim, a proper update on the financials, especially for the budget in February. Right now we're just standing at a 3% shortfall on our actual budget for revenue. The listings below, all the way through, up until page number 2, is everything that we have actually spent for the year. If you'd like to have a chance to go through, if you have any questions. Now you'll see, sorry David, do you have a question?
You said question?
Go ahead please.
I have one question. I don't know if I should be asking it now or after you go through. I should wait till you go through this. It deals with this, but it should be. We're going to be. We had. You said 2014 audited, right?
Yeah, that's going to be actually mentioned after all of this.
Later.
Yes.
All right.
Now, you'll see a couple of amounts that have gone over the budget. One of them under Christian outreach, which is the third box down, expenses Christian outreach. One of them is under the Rwanda school project. Of course it went over because with the way the Canadian dollar has changed, and Pastor Terry's been keeping you updated with some additional expenses. They had to also do an additional survey which had to be paid for. This is the reason why it's over budget. The original budget was basically an intelligent guesstimate.
You didn't guess the 40% devaluation of the dollar.
Yeah. Because the Canadian dollar has dropped so much, it has actually cost us probably in excess of over $1,000 extra. Just in the exchange rate from the Canadian over to the quadrant. But wonderfully enough, all of this amount that you see that it has been spent on Rwanda was actually completely covered by donations just dedicated for Rwanda. So nothing came out of our general account. The Lord is really taking care of that. The food vouchers, the original guesstimate was 6,000. They went up to 8,600. That was also brought up at a board meeting, which is also Pastor Terry brought up to the general membership for basically an increase in the amount of food cards being given. Namely because when you're actually giving out a $25 food card, with the cost of living the way it is nowadays, what will $25 really get you? Nothing. So it was approved upon by the board and the membership to increase it to $50 per card. And the need for these food cards has been extensive. This will also be covered under the audit when it's explained to you. You will see nothing for the budget for the rent, because this was a surprise for us when they actually told us we had to pay rent. But you'll see when we get to the 2016 budget, it has been included. And if you look on page number 2, you'll see that everything is very, very close to budget. A lot of it is actually under. I'm happy to say, and I've been told a few times because I'm also very strict when it comes to spending money on behalf of the church. And sometimes I say, can we really afford it? Yes, the expenses over 2014 increased by 25%. But according to the budget, we've actually saved 11.28% below budget. So we're doing very well in efforts to try and save money any way that we can. Does anybody have any questions in reference to this interim? Phyllis?
Why are the bank charges so high when it was budgeted for 60?
Pardon me?
Why are the bank charges so high? It was budgeted for 60 and it's 115.
Oh, that is because of also checks that we ordered. The check orders are also included in that.
Oh.
Because there's no need to create a separate account when we order checks. And we had enough checks, but the cost of the checks has risen so incredibly high. But yeah, that's a good question. Thank you, Phyllis. If everybody didn't hear, Phyllis was actually asking why our bank charges are so high compared to the actual budget. It's because we ordered checks. They now charge us $60 for 50 checks. So what we did is we actually reworked out, I went and had a meeting at the bank. We managed to get a discount and get our old style checks, so we got more checks at a lower price. So they gave us a loyalty credit on top of it. So I got our checks lower. But thank you for that question. Does anybody else have any questions that they think they're not sure why there is a specific amount? I'll give you one more minute to look over. Actually, you'll see that the office administration salary, you all know about that because it was actually brought upon by the board meeting and the membership vote to increase the salary to $650 every 2 weeks. And that is why there's an increase in budget for the administrative salary. That will be reflected in the next budget. Yes, Phyllis?
I'm not here again.
It's okay. That's what we're here for, is to ask questions.
A GST write-off, what do you mean by that?
Okay. When we submit a GST, HST return, all that means is that everything that we purchase throughout the year, we pay HST and GST. Now, the government's only going to give us a percentage back. We only get roughly about 72% back by the time it's finished.
I thought what.
So a GST write-off just means we have to file it as an expense. That's just the difference, so it zeroes out the account. That's the way it has to be done, that's according to CRA.
As I understand that the GST, you pay, but you will get 70%.
We get about 70 to 72% back, yeah. There's a federal and a provincial portion.
It should be an accord because you will receive it back.
Yeah.
You should
I can't
control
see it
the
being a
70
write-off.
the 70% and have it as an accord,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
And then when you receive it, you close the accord and you
Yeah, so what we have to do with the difference between what we receive and what we pay is actually, according to CRA, classified as a GST write-off.
They have changed it. I mean, when I did books for 28 years for churches,
But I think you should make
it was always
anyway
half. Has
a
it gone up now?
a provision
You-
as a receivable amount.
It was originally under receivable, yes, but once we received our actual GST return, I applied that against what we've paid out, and the rest of it is actually zeroed out in reference to an expense. That's the way we're supposed to do it, that's the way I've always done it, and CRA told me I have to do it that way. And that's actually the name of it within the Simply Accounting program. Because we can't leave that amount showing as a receivable, because we're not going to receive that additional amount.
It's right, it's receivable, I will receive.
Yeah, on the whole portion, but once everything's calculated, I have to submit the report to Revenue Canada with their formula. Then what they do is they send us a return, and whatever's left over, we have to expense it. We have to zero it out. So we never receive the full amount, of course. Because we can't leave it as a receivable for that year.
Yeah, but something compute in percentage, so anyway, percentage is percentage, this will do
Yeah.
70%, 70%, 70%.
But the software is in
60% is 60%, you should make a, I say, you know, in accounting, you can open a provisional account, and then when you receive the amount, you close the provisional, and then you put it as in your, as your active, I don't know.
Yeah, and say, yeah, that one portion that we received the money on came in as a revenue and is recorded. Say the portion that we don't get has to be zeroed out as an expense. That's just the way it has to be.
No, it cannot be zero.
Well, for that year, yes, zeroed out. Because we do a return for January, for example, for this year, we're submitting a report in January 2016 for a GST report from January 1st to December 31st.
Listen, my brother.
Yeah.
And when do you receive it back?
In accounting, anytime
6
you
weeks
look
to
at the figure,
That's when you should have it.
you should see what is payable, what is receivable.
Okay, that's only if you're collecting.
Then, if the balance is zero, that means the account has been completely closed. And if it's closed, you cannot one day or reopen it and say you have a balance of you. No.
Okay.
Logically, it should be retained as a balance. For example, in the previous year, it is a payable balance.
That's if we are collecting GST.
Okay? And then when you close the account, the T account, you close it. Now it becomes zero. The difference between the two amounts should be in the new year as a receivable account.
It doesn't work that way in HSC when we're only paying.
Anyway,
It works that way if we are also receiving, like if we're selling things and we're receiving GST or HST as well, then it'll offset the other, yes. But because we are only paying it as an expense, once the report is put in and we get our GST, HST return, the remaining amount according to CRA, we have to zero it out as an expense, and then January 1st starts a whole new balance at zero.
but that's it.
I understand what you're saying, but we can't do it.
I have another question.
Yes.
If it's zero, and you have an agent of the custom, you know, coming and look, you say, but it's zero, and they have it, and 6 months, 8 months later, they never, you claim it, that amount, they never send it to you. and the books are going like this. How any human being can forget, can make mistake. And then, how you will remember regarding the books, or something happened, you never get access to the books, and someone is doing the books. How that person will know there is a claim to follow, and there is a balance of such amount, it is 60% of such amount you should have received, and then you never give. How that person will know, because if the balance is zero, zero is zero, nobody can claim zero.
Yeah, well, if the balance is zero for that current year, that means that we haven't claimed any GST that we've paid out.
I just put that.
When you do the accounting, okay, but every time that we purchase anything,
You always have the money.
within the accounting, I put in the net amount. Then we have a separate account which is known as 2315. It's called GST payable. We actually put the amount of tax in there, which equals the gross amount.
Yeah.
Right? Then we will credit whichever account it is, like whether it be for
No,
youth account or whether it be the
I
general
don't
account.
ask you the process you do to know the amount.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. That accumulates over the year. That's why that amount that you saw in the negative, for example, it's negative 797, that's why it shows. That's the amount that we can claim, but that's not the amount that Revenue Canada gives us. And once we claim for the 12-month period, we're not allowed to claim any of that amount again.
But for the state, Revenue Canada set a certain percentage
Yes.
that they will give. Okay? So, as an accountant, you should compute that percentage. Because whatever the amount, the percentage is fixed.
Yeah.
It's 60%, 60% figure. It's 90%, 90%, because you don't put I would say, fiducie or any imaginary amount. It is something computed on the basis of percentage. So it's one. Let us say it's 1,000. You know, you say Revenue Canada reimburse 70%. So you will say 700 to be received.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. It makes it simpler on here. But when we submit the actual HST, GST return to Revenue Canada, we have to submit exactly how much GST we have paid. We can't say, we know how much we're going to get back. We have to show how much we paid, and then Revenue Canada will re-verify how much they give us back. We can't just automatically put the formula in.
That's what I'm saying. You have the full amount paid, but you know that you will receive 70%, right?
Yes.
So,
Used to be
I paid such amount, 1,000. I have to receive 70%. So I have an account receivable 700 because I have paid 1,000. I will receive back 70%. So I have an account receivable 700.
But that's just not the
I
way.
cannot close the account zero.
That's just not the way Simply Accounting or any software program or any accountant in the whole world works in. Sorry.
See?
Yeah, go ahead,
The
Michelle.
explanation is that, as he said at the beginning, the church works on actual cash in and cash out,
Yeah.
whereas you're speaking on an accrual basis, and to make an exception that we're going to work on an accrual basis for GST refunds, when it's a fairly small amount, I think you either go on accrual altogether or on cash basis altogether. But what's happening, the reason that you're talking two different languages is because Steve is talking cash and Benito is talking accrual.
We're too small to deal with a book.
Go ahead, Steve.
But do you understand what I'm saying though? It's just that we can't put it in as accounts receivable for the amount that we know we're going to get. We have to, by law, by CRA regulations, show exactly how much we paid out in GST. Then we submit that report, it's called a GST HST return, once a year, then they send us the difference. And they told me the exact procedure is, whatever we get, the remaining amount has to be zeroed out as an expense. That's exactly how we do it. Otherwise they're going to have to rewrite Simply Accounting. Sorry. It's just the way it is, it's not my law. I follow the regulation that CRA puts down on us. That's a good question. Anybody else have a question about this at all?
About the rent.
Okay.
See, nice.
So once again, I'll put a motion for this interim report, the budget for 2015, to be put over until January of 2016, where the actual number under actual will be closer.
January or February, when you get the money back from the government for whatever money we're going to be getting back. That way it'd be the actual number.
Or whatever you decide to have in.
We always did.
Then,
Okay, now I'm thoroughly confused. Is, like, for example, the rent, $1,843.73. Does that include GST, or does it not?
GST is actually claimed in it, yes.
That includes the GST. Because I always thought,
No, actually, no, that'll be the net amount. That'll be GST as a separate calculation.
oh, so you're actually paying them more at the present time,
Yes.
and hoping the government's going to give you it back and don't change
Yeah,
before it comes back.
good question. Yeah, that's a net amount.
Because I always kind of seen books where you use the figure that you actually issued the check for. So the auditors could look at an expense, rent, so many dollars, and that's what the check was for.
You know what? I will honestly double check when I get home, I mean, just to double check the amount on there, that if it's with or without. Actually, I never even thought of that, honestly. I will double check that amount for you and I will get back to you. So do you want me to hold this off until I have a correct answer for you? Until next week? Okay, so I'll hold this off until next week to make sure I answer this question for yourself and everybody else. We'll go and continue on now to, sorry, does anybody else have any questions in the meantime? That I can mark down and make sure we have answers for next week. Okay, if not, we'll move on to the 2016 budget draft.
Steve?
Yes, David?
When you're up there, why don't you just turn around and turn off the projector thing? It's asking me turned off anyway.
Okay, does everybody have the 2016 budget draft? This is much simpler. It's just basically what we approved for a budget for 2015. And the numbers on the right-hand side are just a suggested amount. If anybody feels that we need to increase or decrease it, this is the time that we speak out. Now, if you'll see under the top bottom section, now it actually shows rent, custodial, $9,880. That is the gross amount for the whole year. That is what they actually have on the invoice for our rent for the whole year. The food program, of course, changed to $7,200. That is according to the board meeting and the vote of members to approve the increase. And it was increased to an amount of $600, was it $600 per month? Now, Terry had mentioned previously about this mission trip 2018. The $5,000 is basically a breakdown for 2016, 17, and 18. Each one of those would be a budget of about $5,000. So therefore, that should cover the whole trip once it comes to that actual mission trip. So we're trying to raise $5,000 per year. Yes. As you'll see, there is an increase on the budget projection for the revenue of $68,080 for 2016. In the other items, you'll see there's actually no change. Except, of course, under the Christian Outreach, the one-day school project, for 2015 was $5,000, for 2016 it's $0. Because that particular aspect of the budget is no longer needed, right? It'll be a new budget coming up for the actual building of the school, which Pastor Terry will mention.
We had an actual amount of money we needed to raise to buy the land. So we knew a fixed amount of money we needed to actually purchase the land in Malawi. Now that we have the land, we need to build the school by the end of 2017. The projected budget is 5 million kwacha, which works out to 50,000 Canadian dollars. Rose is working on getting and approaching agencies such as Rotarians to see whether they would take this on as a project to build the school. So she's also at the point of finding out and breaking down the cost for building the school, materials and labor. So it's hard to put in an amount right now for what the cost will be 2016, 2017. In total, the estimate is by the time the school is built, we're looking at $50,000, but that may be divided either equally or 40-60 between 2016 and 2017. So we can't really put that in at this point because we don't know at this point what to budget for each year. Is there any questions on that? So that's why before it was different, because we had a very fixed amount for the land. We knew what the land would cost. But going into this phase, within the next 2 or 3 months, Rose should get information on whether she's found some funders. We're also looking at the possibility of crowdfunding in this coming year to also raise money. In building the school, we're looking at 3 sources of income. 1, if we move on the internet to crowdfunding. 2, finding agencies and groups that will come on board to put up the money to build the school, and 3, through donations to BBC. Yes.
The other question, yes, buying the land, building the school. But I know Rose has been the main one, I believe, covering the expenses of paying the teachers' salaries and other expenses. What is, as the school gets more grades and there's more teachers, who is covering the cost of salaries?
Rose.
Well, I believe...
Answering it direct. Right now, where there's nothing in here, Rose has been working extra as a teacher, even though retired, and a lot of money has come from Rose from her own pocket.
Yeah.
She helped cover the cost of...
Glenn's question is, who's going to pay the future? The answer is tuition.
That's right.
There is tuition coming through the school that will pay the cost of
teachers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but will that cover them all? Because I thought some of the people coming there can't afford the tuition. Some of the people going there cannot
I
afford
believe they're being sponsored.
As that school grows, then we look for sponsorship for families that are coming, because Rose covered in the past children that were not covered, so she covered their expenses. It's a Christian private school with Muslims and Muslim and Christian children going, and some of the families going cannot even afford the basic costs, which are charged to pay for porridge, because children come not eating until 4 in the afternoon. So it's to pay for porridge and writing, paper, pens, etc. So it's just the basic costs per child. So there's some families that don't have the ability to even put up or pay for the tuition. So Rose in the past has covered that out of her own pocket. Right now we have all the children, 5 children that were in need at present time. For now, they are sponsored and covered. But as the school grows, that could change, because every year they add a different class. So this coming year, grade 2 will be added, so there'll be another 30 plus kids. They're trying to keep 30 children per class. However, the kindergarten is more than 30, because the school is becoming so popular. People, the reputation of the school, because we hire the best teachers in the country. So, because you have schools that are run differently, you may have one teacher teaching different grades. This will be one teacher, 30 children, same grade. So, because people know this is high quality education, the school is becoming very popular. So, in future, even when the school is planned to be built, even building a school with 1 class per grade from kindergarten to grade 8, you're looking at 270 children. However, already the school is becoming so popular that you may end up looking at split grades. So it's hard, it's sort of like Jello. It's hard to pin this down right now. We could, if you want, to put some money in here to cover incidental costs that would normally come out of Rose's pocket that come up, like last year there was a need, as each class grows, there's a need for chairs. So out of her own pocket, she bought chairs for a whole class. And she knows where to get items cheaply in Malawi.
Yeah, it can't be expected that Rose is going to pay all of this.
I'm saying, if you desire, you could put something in here where there's nothing in the budget. You could put something in for Lawande School Project to cover things like this, that if it's not in there, Rose would pay out of her own pocket.
I have a suggestion. Let's say if anyone here in this room who would like to sponsor salary for the teacher, then we can put that maybe on the side and say this person just want to sponsor the teacher's salary. Then in that way, as David was concerned about all coming from Rose, so anyone that God laid in your heart to sponsor one teacher, I think that would, if you want to put this as 1 year, 2 years commitment, it depends upon on your choice.
Or sponsor a student, like you did.
Yeah. But I guess
To kind of clarify what Alan is saying, when you think of teachers, over there, what is it, $500 a year, roughly? Nothing like here. So that's why maybe an extra item could be put in if any of us, or if we know somebody that wants a pet extra project to help out the glory of God, they can go ahead and either sponsor a child or sponsor a teacher or part of a teacher, because it's only $500 per year.
it's changed a bit because
Of the Canadian
our
dollar.
dollar has crashed so much, and the Malawi kwacha is one of the few African currencies that has not dropped in relation to the Canadian dollar. So our dollar has gone down, and it has stayed. So it's cost about 40% more for expenses. Converting our Canadian dollar, we're getting less kwacha.
Maybe 700 then per year,
It's a lot less
which is a
than
lot,
last year.
a small amount in our books, but a lot in their books.
And the teachers there are all qualified teachers that have gone through the Malawi certification and education. So they're some of the best teachers in the country that we are hiring for this school.
I think for me, like let's say if I want to commit just for the salary of the teacher, let's say if I know it's 500, okay, I want to commit 500 for the whole year. And then whatever left over or missing for that part, it's gonna come from the tuition of the kids there. So it's not like coming out from the whole tuition of the kids over there. I think that would, let's say you wanna just commit that amount for the whole year, then you can do that in my own opinion. And whatever is missing, then it will come out from the tuition that will be added to that.
So my question then is, irrespective of that, because as those of you who have grown up in Africa know, nothing is certain. There are always surprises. Would you consider putting, since there's a blank, putting something in the budget for unexpected incidentals, which if they come up, Rose will pay out of her pocket? Would you consider putting something in the 2016 budget for under Lawande School to cover any unexpected expenses like this that we're not aware of at this point that could come up? I present that as a question.
Yes, we can also rename the miscellaneous development project. There's a section there that we actually decided to start. That was for additional things that came up in our budgets. Maybe because that was never used, maybe we could just rename that.
Yes, we budgeted for 1,000.
Yeah, there was $1,000 budgeted for miscellaneous development project. That was to cover any extra incidentals for the requirement of the land, but we never used any of that part of the budget.
How much was that?
That was $1,000. It'll be under the expenses Christian outreach, the fourth line down. It says miscellaneous development project, 2015 1,000, 2016 1,000. But we've never used it.
So we could leave it as is,
And add on.
or add something additional for the school project, or leave as is, and if something comes up, we can always have a church meeting and vote to meet those expenses.
Yes. And based upon that, considering we brought up about sponsorship, would anybody like me to also add an additional section to the budget for 2016 called a one-day sponsorship project? To sponsor either a teacher or a student.
I think so.
So Ellen liked that idea. And does anybody else like that idea? Okay.
So is that
Does anybody have a specific amount that they have in mind before we pass this through as a motion? Pastor Terry did mention, and Glenn had actually increased it from 500 to about 700, right?
Yeah,
For a teacher.
With their dollar.
Should we maybe increase it to $1,000 to also maybe include any students that might need sponsoring? Because I'd hate to see a child not be able to go to school because their parent cannot afford to put them in school.
you're basically looking at about $160 a year for a student.
Wow, we spend that in coffee. Oops, did I say that? It's on camera, it's too late.
I hear.
So, does anybody like the idea of putting it at $1,000?
Yeah.
Steve, why don't you
Yes,
just change the name of this
Miscellaneous development project?
To just put it to what, just change the name to what,
To a one-day
$1,000
sponsorship?
already, just switch it over.
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting, because we never use it.
You can just drop off miscellaneous and put in sponsorship.
Yeah, I'll just put down sponsorship, yes.
Right, of the thing.
Okay,
Just switch it over, the money's already been budgeted for it. Why put
okay.
it in there?
And under the one-day school project, 700? Because Pastor Terry was saying in case any additional amounts needed, for example like chairs and stuff like that, would you like to increase, put an amount in there for the budget for 2016? Does anybody have a suggestion of how much? Pastor Terry, considering he's done so much, would know a rough idea. Do you have a
I
suggestion?
think we can put in 1,000, and if needed, we can always increase as the need arises.
Okay. Okay, so I'll bring these points up as soon as we've finished with this 2016 budget. Under page 2, everything remains the same, except for, as I discussed previously, the office administration salary being changed from 11,700 to 13,127. The Revenue Canada expenses, section below, we have to match on CPP and we have to pay 1.4 times on EI. That's the reason why it's an additional amount for payroll. As you'll see from 2015, there's actually going to be an increase of an additional $1,000 for the one-day school project. So, the projected budget for 2016 will be $58,837. An increase of $1,000 additional on the listed amount. Does anybody else have any additional questions for the 2016 budget? Jordan?
Can I ask a question if I'm not a member?
Yes.
Yes.
It's amazing that such a small church has, I guess, global reach because we're doing so much work beyond the borders of Canada, right? But I also think we should also do our best at home here in Ottawa and specifically here in our church. And I was a bit surprised that Pastor Terry doesn't have a salary. So I just wanted to ask.
I will actually answer your question as soon as you finish asking. We had actually spoken about that. There's a couple of things. Because Pastor Terry is on the board, a board member is not allowed to receive any form of remuneration. That includes salary. And we have looked into salary for Pastor Terry, and we don't have the money for it right now. We actually brought that up at the last board meeting. We had discussed this in great detail, right?
I think that should be the first thing that's considered, seeing as these are.
Those 2 points also, because of my health issues, I am on I'm on disability. So I can't earn money as well. So through not being able to work in my regular job, I'm on long-term disability. So I cannot be seen as earning anything. So I'm working here as a pastor voluntarily.
Yes.
Pro bono.
And he's not even allowed to receive any form of honorarium either,
Right.
because of being a board member. But
Perhaps long-term, maybe we should.
it would be wonderful if we could just put him straight on salary. We have spoken about this in more than one board meeting, and we would love that. Because the amount of work that Pastor Terry does is way above and beyond any of us could even imagine. We think we put a lot of time in our regular work jobs. No, Pastor Terry exceeds it way beyond.
My wife is the only one that doesn't imagine.
She doesn't imagine, she goes to school, she comes back and yes. Are you still doing that? No, I won't go there. But trust me, Joseph, we would love to be able to put him on salary, but as Pastor Terry stated, because he's on disability, if he earns any revenue, he'll lose his disability. They'll say, why are you working? They will actually make him go back to work. So it's
Just praise God that He always provides our needs.
yes,
Amen.
and God always provides our church needs.
And I'd like to, there is, I don't know, we missed that on the other statement about the phone charges. It's a little bit, like, to me it's quite high, but starting this month, it's gonna lower down because we negotiate the Bell Canada. So next year, it will be less than this amount that's in here. We negotiate to Bell Canada.
We actually calculated to be about $360, right, over the year that we're saving.
Yes.
Yeah. What happened is actually Pastor Terry called and said, we're going to go to Primus. Oh no, please, we don't want to lose you. So they got the rate from Primus, applied it to Bell, and we got a discount. So yeah, you're right, I should have actually lowered it down, but you never know, because with the phone bill, of course, if long distance calls have to be made, etc., have to allow for that additional amount just in case. It's better to have a budget of a little bit too much extra than not enough. But would anybody like that amount to be changed? Or left as is?
But do you know what the new amount is going to be?
It's going to be about $640 roughly.
So maybe it should be changed.
But let's say, do you want to make an addition for a little bit extra, maybe for long distance charges? So maybe cap it at 700?
Okay.
What do you think, 700, Glenn? Okay, so for this one, you change.
There is no long distance in there, so it's just like the local, there's no long distance added.
No long distance plan, no. So if you just make a long
No,
distance
but
call,
it's okay.
it's full charges.
We don't need that.
No, but just in case you need to. Emergencies always happen, right?
No, but that's only within Canada, so, there's no additional in there.
But sometimes we've had dealings, of course, like with churches in the States, where we've had to communicate with them. Like, remember when we first opened up Britannia? The two different groups that came from the States, so we never know. It's always good to have a little bit extra.
So that will...
The telephone expense on page 2 will change from $1,000 to $700, therefore a decrease of $300, bringing the new budget to $58,537. I don't need the calculator yet. The new amount for the year would be $58,537. And of course, these things always change. If anybody else has any other ideas or suggestions for 2016 proposed budget?
Do we have to pay for the auditors? The audit,
No.
feature?
We're going to get to that. Okay.
One additional point on one thing that could be covered with the additional expenses for the Malawi is we will have to put together a website for the school. So there might be some expenses that might come up to get a separate website which will help in fundraising for the schools. $100,000, that could cover the establishment of a website for the schools.
David, you have a
How
question?
much, I see on the sheet there is $400 for the website?
Yes, that allows not just for the actual name of Britannia Baptist Church, we also have an additional website, Fire in the Flames.
I'm
that
just
is
saying,
Pastor Terry's book.
that's how much is it how much is it a website?
It depends on whether you have a .com, a .net, what the current rates are. It always changes. That also includes web hosting, which we have to pay for monthly.
That should be added on for what Terry just asked about. If you're gonna have an extra
Well, no,
one
it's
for
actually-
the
no, it's
school.
not- because it's international, it cannot be under the local budget. It has to be under the Rwanda budget.
Oh,
It's a specific standalone website for the Islamic project.
So for there, for example, it wouldn't be a .com, right? It would, I don't know what it would be. But because it's an educational institution, it's a higher charge to find an actual URL, or better known as a website.
It would probably get org.
Yeah, .org is normal, yes, for schools or charitable organizations. But it's a good point, David, thank you. But like Pastor Sarah said, that'll be included in the $1,000.
would you be able to, you can, look that up before you actually give us the final one of these?
Yes, I will retype it all up. But as I say, that's why it says on the front, 2016 budget draft. This is not official. This is for us to discuss, make suggestions more or less. The official one will not come, of course, until 2016. Once we actually are satisfied with the suggestions we made here, we'll do a motion, we'll do a second, we'll do a vote. Once that's done, then I will go home, I will do up a new one with the suggested changes. And that will be brought forward when everything's sorted out in reference to the question about the gross or the net for the rent, and any other changes to bring the whole of 2016 into a brighter perspective of what happened in 2015. So, based on that, as I say, does anybody else have any suggestions for changes, additions? Phyllis?
Should it be put in something by the website that you're going to get it? There's, you know, whatever cost you think it might be.
Pastor Terry mentioned that would be under the $1,000 for the one day.
Okay.
Unless, of course, do you think we should increase it? But as I say, because we don't know right now. I think it's better also to have the school built. Once the school is being built, then it's a great time to have the website.
No, we need the website to raise money for the school.
Okay, that too, yes. But, okay, raising money, yeah, that's going to be a different type of website. Because it has to have a proper link in reference to donations. And because it's international, it also falls under different rules. But yeah, right now we'll leave that under the $1,000. If there's any increase that is requested, of course, you know the way Pastor Terry does. We discuss it in the board meeting, then it's brought up to the membership for a vote. So the draft as is, does anybody have any more suggestions, additions, deletions, or comments? Did everybody get the new proposed amount for the actual budget? Once again, just to mention, $58,537. Okay, does anybody, can I please get a motion from the floor to accept the 2016 budget draft?
I'll make that motion.
Can I second that motion? No, can I second that motion, please? Glenn? Okay, can someone second Glenn's motion for the budget for 2016? Say your name louder for the camera, please. Thank you. And can we have a vote, please? All those in favor? All those against? Abstain? Carried. Thank you very much.
Move right along because we're here till 3:30, so time is going by. So we will have and look at the auditor's report. We appreciate Jerry and Jack for all the hours and time and effort they put into this. Much appreciated, big time. And you have the auditor's report before you, and I would like to call Jerry up at this point to highlight some of the points that the auditors have found some of the, hey, you're doing great, and some of, hey, this is the area where you can do better.
So the auditor's report is intended to provide an outsider's view to reassure church members that the monies that you give to the church are handled as you are told, and that what is collected every Sunday is equal to what goes into the bank account, and what comes out of the bank account is clearly explained and documented. That's what an outsider auditor does. The second reason you have an outsider auditor is because government will sometimes come in, tax authorities, and ask, what documentation do you have that the financial reports, such as the ones you just heard, are accurate? And you say, because we had an audit. That's what an audit does. So an audit does two things. It reassures the church members that their finances are properly taken care of, and it provides a basis for giving an answer to government and taxation authorities, because a church has special tax status, and CRA has the right to demand documentation that the church is operating within those parameters. Brief answer to those questions is yes. Church finances are as they have been presented to you, and with one exception, we believe that they are consistent with what CRA would expect the church finances to look like. Second point, there's some recommendations. You're under no obligation to accept those. Jack and I are not even members, we are simply auditors, and we're saying from an outsider's perspective, here are some things that you should consider changing. Whether you do, it's up to you. There's no authority on our part. There's no way we can tell you. This is an internal decision that will be made presumably by the board and approved by the church, but how you do it is up to you. These are just recommendations. Okay. So the first section, preamble, self-explanatory. Second section, defining our role. That's what I just said. That's what we do. That's what we did. A couple of other things that we looked at were the church's liability insurance policy and the job description for the one-page position. Then there's the comments on each of those, the bottom of page 1, top of page 2, which are self-explanatory. Recommendations, a few small recommendations that I'll pause here. Are there any questions? Are there any questions about the insurance policy? No? Okay, good. Are there any questions about the job description? Good. Are there any questions about the recommendations? If you can read English, it should be plain. Grocery store gift cards, we can maybe spend an extra minute on that, because that's not a black and white. That's there's some gray area here. So generally, there are grocery store gift cards that are distributed at the sole discretion of Pastor Terry. There are good reasons why this should be so, and we have listed the 3 reasons that we see why this makes a lot of sense. Then the word however. There are some concerns, and we've listed what those concerns are. And those concerns are basically optics. It's not substantial. It's not that we have any reason to believe that gift cards are given out inappropriately. We have no reason to believe that. We're merely addressing the optics of the situation to somebody who doesn't know the needs in Britannia, who doesn't know Britannia Baptist Church, who doesn't know Pastor Terry. To an outsider, there would be some issues, and we have listed them. And then we make some recommendations, which are the top of page 3. I think they're all self-explanatory. The only issue that I would specify is that it's not just a matter of what the church thinks it should be, it's a matter of what the church thinks it should be within the parameters of our tax status. We have a special tax status. The issues there are these. If you are putting money into the church collection and you get a tax-deductible receipt for it, you are disqualified from receiving any benefit from the church. Because you can see how this would work. You have a guy who puts $100 a month in. At the end of the year, he gets a receipt for $1,200. Now, if during the year he runs into problems and he gets gift cards from the church, $600 worth of gift cards from the church, he really only made a net donation of $1,200. Excuse me, of $600. He made a net donation of $600 because he put in $1,200 over the year. But then at some point he ran into problems, comes to the church, gets $600 worth of gift cards. He got a receipt for $1,200, but he really only gave a net of $600. You see that? Okay, so you have to work within that. So basically, members of the church cannot receive anything that has been receipted with tax receipts. How do you get around that? You get around that by having collections that are special collections that are not receivable. So there what you're doing is, in addition to your regular tithe, maybe you put in $50, and basically you're saying to the board, here's this money, use it as you see fit, and that can be used to give benefits to people who are members, and that's legal because there was no tax receipt for it. Does that make sense? The end. Any questions? Any questions? No questions. Thank you.
I thought Jerry was going to I think we were just going to discuss at the conclusion what you and Jerry thought about the whole, if everything was being done properly. Is that okay for everybody? They ready?
I think these are just comments. I don't see there's anything that needs to be discussed there. Perhaps Steve wanted to draw attention to the fact that the conclusion says that Steve did a good job.
No.
I will say that Steve did a good job.
According to what you both found by checking everything, that all the accounting was done correctly for the entire year.
But in fact,
According to CRA regulations.
According to what we understand CRA regulations, we could be wrong in that, but there's only so far you can go. We're just a small organization. We don't have it within our budget. It doesn't make sense to hire professional accountants to come in and review when, number one, we're small. Number two, we have so many needs that are so much closer to the mandate of the church, which is something other than providing great commissions to accounting firms. And number three, when there's no reason to believe that there's any issues. Given those 3 points, we're small, we have a mandate which is not to produce income for accounting firms, and we have no reason to believe there's any issues. On that basis, you have these two guys who really are not qualified professionally, but they care about the church. They have some understanding of accounting, and they're the only guys who said yes to being asked.
Gary?
You have to do stand-up, Jerry.
I'm afraid I'm a little bit slow and it took a little bit of thinking. When you talk about income tax, about the charitable donations, and did they actually donate the full amount that the receipt was for? To answer that question you bring up, would it not be appropriate, and this is a question I'm asking the two of you, would it be appropriate that there's a record kept of who gets what food vouchers, and then that record is compared to what donations they have given, so that the income tax receipt would take off the food vouchers off of the total amount. If they were not able to have donations, then okay. But with that, would clear it with the income tax that there's no receipt issued for monies that was donated but given back in food vouchers.
Okay.
That bit of record, I think, would cut.
Okay, it's a fair question, and I think I can give you a good answer to that. So here's the question. Should we not have clear accounting in case Revenue Canada comes back and says, here's somebody who made donations to the church, got a receipt for it, and then received a benefit out of the amount that was received? That is Glenn's question. So the answer, I think, would be this. That in order to respect privacy and in order to minimize redundant paperwork, yes, there should be an accounting whoever gives out these cards should have a record of what's been given, but then it stops there unless Revenue Canada comes snooping around and says, show us. Then we have something to show them. But until such time as Revenue Canada comes by to say, show us, unless there's a reason to think that there's mishandling of these, or unless you have some other reason to ask for the documentation, then the board could make a decision to release that information to you or to somebody. But I don't think until that point there's a need to do that. The only thing is there should be a record. We are recommending that there be a record, and the record would be kept by those who hand out the cards. But then that is, I wouldn't say exactly sealed, Glenn, but that is kind of put in a drawer and not taken out unless somebody who has authority to ask, which would be you guys as members or Revenue Canada, then you would take it out and you would show the person.
Point. Before this report, ever since cards have come in, I have kept a record and have written on every single card who got what and on what date. I have all the cards that have been given.
We didn't know that.
Yeah, we have stock of cards, like the empty one, you know, when you buy the card, there's like a little paper. So we write their names and the date. And when he forgets, sometimes I nail his head.
That's why we have that's why we have wives. So I'm just going to say, again, we are not in a position to tell the church, you're not answerable to us. We're just making recommendations. So it goes to the board. Now when it goes to the board, when these recommendations go to the board, then the board will hear, okay, 95% of what is being suggested here is already being done. Let's address the other 5% as we see fit. Is that a question for me, Steve?
No, it's just a statement. Sorry, CRA doesn't require any names to be given. They need a proper record of the cards themselves, but they do not require names. I already verified it with CRA. And that's a Privacy Act.
It would only be if they were doing an audit.
If they didn't audit, they just need a record of the actual card, and that the card was spent, but they do not require the name of the person that received it.
And I'll just mention as well, we've been very careful with confidentiality.
Yes.
When cards are given out and a mom gets a card, usually other moms don't know when that mom has gotten a card. So we protect the privacy of those who receive help. Also, we do not in any way encourage dependency. We only provide for needs as they arise. We do not give a particular mom a card every month. No. Only as there are needs. I know there's a recommendation to put a second person in here being required or being recommended to have a double approval.
That's for the board to decide.
Yeah, for the giving out of cards. That brings in different confidentiality and privacy issues, because if I know a family and know their situation totally and the second person does not, then I have to break confidentiality rules in order to bring that person on side to approve the giving of the cards. So there's
You work that out at the board level. It could be that you'll decide that in cases like that, the second person is either going to have confidence in your recommendation or at the board. But it's the board that's going to decide. It's not you and it's not the second person. It's the board that's going to decide. It's not us.
no. So for the auditor's report, I think we should table it for consideration and accept it in the meeting. So I would like,
Before Jerry leaves, I would like to, Jerry, before you take off, I'd like to, on behalf of everybody, I know what it takes to audit books, having done it. Thank you and Jack for having taken the time to audit the books for the church.
Okay.
I would second that.
I think we're going to be using from us the affection that we have for the people here and the appreciation we have for the work that's being done here. That's our little part. So, very little.
Other than I'm saying, maybe one of you should move an adoption that you...
We don't have, we can't, we're not members, we can't
Well,
move.
you can say that you submitted it and you, well, it doesn't
I
matter.
think
You
you're in
don't
a
have to
position
be
to do
chartered
that.
accountants to do
I'm not
that.
telling you what to do, but you could at this point say, I move the acceptance of the auditor's report.
I had one question before you leave. In the case of not having a treasurer before the report is put in for the coming year. Does another audit have to be done in 2015 before a new treasurer is appointed?
I don't see any reason. I was asked that before. So the question that Terry's putting in is, okay, so Steve, after 6 years, is now stepping down. A new person is going to be appointed as treasurer. When a new person comes in as treasurer, is there a requirement to have an audit to make sure that everything is spick and span up to that point? I would say I don't see it. I don't see that the treasurer coming in has any responsibility beyond what happens from the date that he or she is appointed to that position. And I don't see any reason to think that there's any issues up to that point. Of course, there will need to be an audit for the year 2015. The audit you're looking at is for the year 2014. In due course, an audit will be required for the year 2015, and Steve's stepping down at the end of 2015, so that will coincide with what you're asking, but not for that reason.
Thank you. So, I would ask that someone would make a motion that we receive this auditor's report for consideration. And we'll go before the board and we will consider it. Phyllis? And seconder?
I will second it. Because I have audited books in the past.
All in favor? Remember? Okay, we will bring this to the board, and now we come to who the board will be. I would like to say on behalf of BBC that we highly appreciate Steve for all of the hard work and the volunteer work. Yes. Not just as a treasurer, but also as a webmaster, and also as a bookkeeper, and also as leading the service different times, and also in the past when he had better help with running around and picking up things that Ellen needed to replenish the Sunday school supplies here in the school. So I would like to say that on behalf of us as a church, how much we've appreciated what you have done beyond the call of duty in these past years in your service to BBC.
So we thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Here we renew the officers. So right now, I'm sort of unofficially not your pastor. And Steve is not returning as treasurer or as webmaster or as bookkeeper. So we also have no events coordinator. So our board has shrunk, and myself and Glenn and Phyllis, I believe, are re-offering for your positions. So it would be renewal of myself and Glenn and Phyllis. However, we need to fill, and Phyllis is an assistant treasurer, but we need a full-time treasurer.
I would help out.
Yeah, you're a backup.
That way I don't.
But not a backup,
I don't want to
full-time
take over
treasurer.
books, but I would help in a backup.
So we will need a full-time treasurer, we will need a bookkeeper, we will need a webmaster, and we will need an events coordinator, like when we have special events like the picnic, someone that can step in, because normally when no one does, I do. And so we need someone to spread the work in these areas. So for the pastoral role and for the assistant treasurer's role and for the worship service role, Glenn and Phyllis and I are re-offering. And so we need a motion. Or we can do all. Yeah. So I can't make a motion So some member would have to make a motion that Phyllis and Glenn and I would continue in our positions into the coming year. Need a member?
I can do that. No, I will not do that.
I give a motion that all three positions be extended and accepted.
We need a seconder. Dave? Okay, all in favor? Okay, so
Assistant
moved.
pastor, for the assistant pastor.
Oh, sorry.
Assistant pastor.
Yes, I'm sorry, I left Benito out of the mix here. A little amended there. Benito has provided service beyond the call as assistant pastor here as well, so we should have included, my apologies, I should have included with Benito, with myself and Glenn and Phyllis. Thank you for the correction. So those who, if Steve and Dave don't mind that addition.
Of course not.
Yeah. And so we've already had that to approve. For the four of us, we will pray and look at the positions that need to be filled. Treasurer, although, do we have, webmaster doesn't need to be a member. So we have we have a volunteer for our webmaster position, and that is Joseph. So to be correct, I would like to have someone make a motion to accept Joseph as our official.
I'll make that motion.
Glenn?
Accept Joseph.
We have a second. Oh, a move. All those in favor? You are officially our webmaster. So we will pray for, is there anyone here who would be interested in being the events coordinator? So when we have like events like the picnic, the Christmas party, calling people to make sure things are done. Is there anyone who's a member who's watching? We don't even really need, I don't know, we did have a requirement as a membership before in that position. So is there anyone here who's a member who would be interested as the events coordinator? Are you volunteering?
I think we need at least 2 people to do this, because one person cannot handle. They need two people to work together to do the events planning.
Okay, events coordinator. So are there 2 people here who would be willing and able to be events coordinators? Now, it's at your discretion. Do you want these to be members, or they could be non-members? Because it's basically calling.
I have a question. Over the past, I have seen times that the treasurer, there was somebody that was an adherent, that hadn't taken membership, but was very connected with the church, as what we refer to as an adherent. Like I'd say, that would be Jack and Jerry, for example. They could qualify to be in a position on the board if the membership agreed. So I think instead of, if somebody is really capable of doing something, I don't think we have to restrict it, that's my opinion, to membership only. If we have somebody that would say, thank you for membership, or is very active as an adherent, or as a helper, that I would like to make the motion that some of the positions could be opened up to people that are keenly interested in the future of the church, plus membership.
And the serving of the Lord. The whole idea of the church is serving the Lord.
Point. You should have members on the board, or you should have people on the board who are members, because decisions are made affecting the whole church.
Yeah.
So, in the past, we had the events coordinator on the board, it could be decided they're not on the board. But is that your discretion? Do you want the events coordinators on the board or off the board?
I don't know, I think my thought would be people that are keen to
Off the board. Okay, so we have the events coordinators off the board. You don't have to be a member. So would there be anyone here, plural?
Member of the church or member of the board?
If you're a member of, if you're on the board, you should be a member of the church.
Okay.
So I'm saying if we decide, as it seems we're going, that the events coordinators don't have to be members, then they're not on the board. So is there anyone here, because we're running out of time, we got to be over here soon. Is there anyone here who would be interested in being an events coordinator, one of the coordinators? Amalia, okay. And I know Amalia's really strong, but is there someone else who's good at using a phone? Because it's really using a phone. It's calling people, like calling other people and saying, hey, the picnic's coming up, are you coming?
Okay.
Or here is the Christmas party, and we're revising the list of adults and children that are going, because there will be a Christmas party again this year. Oh, so Joy and Amalia.
Harry? She had a hand up.
Okay. So, can I have someone to motion quickly? Benito will make a motion for Amalia and Joy to be our events coordinators. Any seconder? Glenn? All in favor?
Yes.
Okay,
Terry, remember I want to add something about this in back? Basketball? Is it now or later?
now, because
Okay.
we won't have an
I would like to make a motion of saying I'm doing the videotaping and taking pictures. I would like a letter made up that I can, the church can hand to everyone that's here, everyone that attends, anyone that gets videotaped or gets a picture taken of them, that it can be signed, and then it's pro bono right from then on to eternity or whatever date you want, that they can be used on putting up on the screen here. And if they don't, and then you can put a line that if you don't want to put on the website, you can put a little check mark, a box, or whatever, if it's okay or not for that, and so on. But some kind of form letter that you can just have somebody that have them sign, and if it's an adult, they sign for themselves. If it's a guardian, either a parent, grandparent, or just a guardian of that child, up to whatever 16 or whatever the age you want, the cutoff date of that, before they become the adult, that they can sign for that child. And then they can print in the area for that name, that child's name can be printed in there, or printed and signed, printed underneath, and that person can sign for that child.
I think this would go into the role of Ellen.
But this should be done ASAP, because it's been something that's been drawn out and drawn in.
Well, it's also creating even an adult on a media release.
Okay, we're gonna make that form, Terry and maybe Pastor Benito, I'm gonna ask them, but I have a suggestion for you, especially when you have like a group meeting, maybe you can speak up a little bit, you say, is there anyone here in this room that doesn't want to be in the picture? Then, so you know that that person doesn't want to be in the picture. So I think feel free to ask them that if they don't want to be in picture, because you cannot just take pictures right away, that some people doesn't like it. Some people, they cover their faces. So feel comfortable asking them. Anyone in this room that doesn't like to be in the picture, then you know that you're not focusing on that person.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got to be out of here.
But I get going.
22 minutes. So I would ask that we close in prayer and then ask that you could help us to put.
When we will have our first meeting, board meeting?
We will decide among ourselves when we will do it.
And are we going to set a date for the one in January or February that would be the revised, the correct finished,
The board will do that.
all said, like,
Let's close it in prayer.
In due time.
We've got.
You can be 4, 5, 6, 7, it can be 5, it can be 3, it can be 7, because when you have to vote, you have to get majority.
But in the board, if we have a chair, the chair can vote. You've got to agree. Okay, let's close in prayer. Lord, just thank you for this productive day. We thank you for the opportunity we have to serve you in this part of Ottawa and beyond. We just look forward to this coming year, to what will be accomplished for the kingdom of God here and beyond. We thank you in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen.